actually look flat.
That was not the profound statement you thought it was.
It wasn't. It wasn't. Hi.
Hello.
It's me, Lisa.
I'm Cryss.
And we are AKS Knit and Crochet.
I swear, I feel like we'd be getting this podcast done by the skin of our teeth.
Every time.
Sometimes I'm just like, yeah, okay.
Every time.
We're a mess. We're an absolute muddle.
But it's okay, you know. More things are messy than one would like to believe. We all want to believe the world is so organized.
Maybe I like that the internet hides all that stuff.
I know. Now you're starting to think.
Filters it out.
You know, now you're starting to think, you know what? I prefer my experiences curated. But anyway, hello, we are back. Thank you for joining us again. And we're just going to do our little thing today. You want to start or shall I? Oh, all right. Well, what I am working on right now. Oh, you know what? Before I start with what I'm working on, let me show you my knit in the wild. So I got a chance to actually wear my new vest on Sunday. It was Mother's Day and my aunt's 80th birthday. So we got together with the family and I wore my vest and my shirt. And it was cold as heck that day and windy.
It was brisk.
It was cold as heck that day and windy. So I had a little white denim jacket to wear over it. I was completely comfortable. Even when we took a picture outside, you know, a big family group picture.
It's a mess.
It was you know what? It's hard to wrangle everybody when you're trying to get a picture together. It's rough.
And the thing is, a lot of our family's short. So getting everyone in the picture.
Yeah, it's difficult because we have a large height variation. So, but I really enjoyed wearing it. I was completely comfortable. I was never too warm or too cold. So it was just the ticket. So if you're thinking about a cute cropped little vest, it's a great layering piece. Consider it in this kind of transitional weather period. Do you want to do yours?
Yeah, I'll show mine now.
Oh, okay.
She wasn't the only one who wore me made.
All right. But yeah, I was really excited. I was like, I'm totally me made.
That's my skirt. That's the elemental skirt from Sew House 7. It's just a remake of the first time I tried to make a pencil skirt. This one just came out so much better.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I started with a better pattern. So for one thing, like when I cut out my size, it was actually my size. That first skirt, when I cut it out, it was too big. I had like 1 1/4 inch seam allowance. It was like huge.
Wow. that's a lot.
So this one fit. And it's the same fleecy pink fabric. So it was actually quite cozy because that's a knit, but the wrong side of it has like this soft fleece feeling. And it was great for a brisk spring day where you didn't want to wear something heavy, but you still wanted to be protected when there was like a stiff breeze.
Yeah. Because it got windy.
It's a great fabric. And I paired it with a little white top because the skirt, you can't really see in the picture, but the fabric's heathered. So there's these little streaks of white in it. So it looks great with a white top.
It did. And I liked how you paired it with those boots.
Yeah. You can't see my purse in the picture, but my purse goes so perfectly with this outfit. It's a pink purse with like black and white flowers on it. It's just...
But... So we got to be me made in May and outside in the world where people could see us. It was amazing. So moving on, I am working on my version of the Zona Vest. Well, it's not a vest. I got vest on the brain now. It's a cardigan. Now, what I liked about it was everything. It turned my head. It actually jumped over what I was planning to actually work on. But I love the open sides. I like the light airiness to it. It really was just everything I wanted for a summer cardigan because it gets super hot and super sticky here. So, and I'm always transferring between an air-conditioned space and completely hot spaces. So I think that'll be just a perfect thing. As a matter of fact, today I was thinking about one of the things I will do later today is do a couple of sketches of what I might actually wear with it that's already in my wardrobe, because I think it'll be a fun little drape over type of thing. So this is where I am now. This is the back. I will be picking up stitches on both sides and the bottom to actually complete the whole look. And I'm working this in Barocco Chai, which is a linen and silk blend that
And
I
not
absolutely
paper.
adore. And not paper. No.
I don't know about the paper you're on.
You know, people, they make them, so somebody must be using them for something. So, what I wanted to talk about with this in particular is when I chose my size, I chose a size that's 2 inches bigger than my bust size. And this, you know what? I am very insecure about making things the right size. So my brain keeps saying, this looks really small. This doesn't look big enough. But I keep going back to my numbers because I wrote it all down. And I'm like, no, this is absolutely the right size. As a matter of fact, when I pick up the sides, I'm going to add 3 inches to each side. But so I say that to say, if you have a little voice in your head telling you that, oh, this looks small, make it bigger, don't listen. If you swatched it and when you actually did the first piece of it, it measured exactly the size it should according to your calculations, then go with that, because that voice in your head is trying to lead you astray. Okay, it's trying to get you to Plymouth Rock and then bash you with it.
Okay.
Don't believe it. So this piece actually measures 26 inches across. So when I add 3 inches to this side and 3 inches to that side, it will be plenty big enough for me to wear very, very comfortably. So, and those are the other things you need to think about when you're making a piece kind of like this, where it's not even complete yet. And that's why it doesn't look as wide across as you think it should. Anyway, that's what's been coming up for me with this piece this week. I'm like, this looks so small. But don't make it any bigger. How are things going with you? Dun, dun, dun.
I was trying to work on a walk tee.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here's the story. Here's where we are. This was originally the front, I think, yeah. But then I just didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I did this like lacy stitch down the center. And I was like, you know what? I really like that lacy stitch. So I changed all the gray stripes to the lacy stitch. Right?
Right.
I still don't like it.
Okay. What is it that you're not liking about it?
I don't know. It's just giving me the blahs. And I'm going to rip the whole thing out and do something else.
Oh, okay. Sometimes that's how it goes.
And I'm just like, I guess up till now, I've been kind of lucky that most of my designs have worked out. I really haven't had to go back to the drawing board with anything.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a first for me.
Well, sometimes it's going to be like that. But I can pretty much assure you that once you do work out the actual design, it's going to be fabulous.
I don't know.
Because I like this lacy stitch. I think you're onto something there. It happens. Oh, you are totally want now.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm gonna have to rip it all out and then start over. But I'm gonna, yeah.
Now, What is it? Can you put your finger on what it is you're not liking about the design? Is it the texture? Is it the fabric?
I think partly I'm not sure about this shape. I was trying to just do something that was almost, I don't know if I want to use the word poncho, but okay. So you know the rectangle top, the purple top that I made.
Yeah.
And you know how the sleeves and the upper body all the same size, and then it has
Right.
a fitted waist.
Yes.
So I was basically trying to do something like that, but without the fitted waist part. So the whole thing from sleeve to sleeve would just be the same height all the way across.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure about that shape in this particular fabric.
Now, do you think you'd like it better if you did create a fitted waist somehow?
I'm just gonna do like a more traditional tank top, but I'm gonna play around with the collar a little bit. I have an idea now.
Okay.
You know, it was hard for me to sketch my ideas because I didn't know how to represent the multicolored yarns
Right.
in my sketches. So I still couldn't really like see it all together. And I really felt like I needed to, I don't know, working with all these different yarns kind of threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think of a way to like make them into a harmonious composition. And it was a challenge.
Well, I think you're on to something with changing up the stitch pattern because of the differences in the yarn. Some yarns might look better in one stitch pattern than the other, and that could be a way that you bring harmony to the composition.
I don't know. Part of me was like, I should just look for a pattern.
You know what? Look at some kimono styles.
No, I have another idea now. I'm always full of ideas, man.
Well, that is true.
I'm not looking forward to ripping it out. And then, you know, I done cut these yarns.
Yeah. Yeah. That's okay. You have mini skeins now. Think of them as mini skeins. Yeah. I see where you're at. It's not a good place.
No, it's not. And like, I've been like working on it every day and like not doing other things that I was supposed to do because I was trying to work on this because I wanted to see if I was going to be able to make it work.
Yeah.
And turned out the answer is no. No, I can't.
Well, sometimes that's what you find out.
Work.
Sometimes that's what you find out. Now, do you think this is an idea that would work better if you had one type of yarn? Let's say even if it was different colors, but it was all one yarn, because you're getting variation because these yarns aren't exactly the same type, style. You know, they're put together differently, so they're going to represent the stitches differently.
That's why I thought giving each one its own striped band would work. I don't like this.
I see it all too clearly. What advice would you give to someone who is trying to put together a bunch of different yarns into one thing? What have you learned?
Have I learned anything? Was I supposed to? I think stripes is still going to be the way to go. My new design still involves like a stripy thing happening, but I don't know. There was just too much new stuff going on for me all at once because I had all these different yarns and I'm working at DK weight. I'm using a bigger hook than I normally use. And all of that combined was just like
too many things. Yeah.
Everything was new. I feel like I'm just so comfortable working with fingering weight yarn. And that weight is kind of how I picture things in my head. And so I thought because I was using a bigger yarn, I wanted to do something kind of like big and loose fitting.
Mm-hmm.
But no. No, that's not what I want to do. So I think I might also go down a hook size too. I'm using a 5mm. I'm either going to go down to a 4.5 or a 4.
Yeah. And you might want to try combining the yarns into a slightly larger than average swatch so that you can see how they play together in your new hook size before you commit to something that large. Because you're doing ginormous swatches right now. So consider doing a swatch that's maybe 8x8,
Mm-mm.
6x6,
Mm-mm.
slightly larger than normal.
You know how long it's going to take?
More time than it took to do this?
That's why I already invested this time.
I'm just
I didn't
saying.
want to like double that. No, I won't be doing that.
Okay.
Let me just. She wants everybody to swatch all the things all the time, and yeah, she always trying to convert everyone to the church of swatch, and I just not. Yeah, I will do some swatching. Obviously, I will have to because I'm going to need to determine measurements.
Right.
But I'm not going to do 8x8 swatches for 6 different yarns.
No. I mean, combining them into one swatch so that you can see how they will flow together. Mm-hmm. Not like a bunch of 8x8 swatches. That'd be insane.
No.
Okay.
We'll see. Because you know what? Whichever yarn I use first,
yeah,
is going to set my gauge. So I feel like I really need to swatch one of them. Then everyone else will just have to fall in line.
Oh. But it might really make a difference. All right, just you know what? Put it in your back pocket. All right, put that idea in your back pocket so you can see how these things are going to play together. OMG.
Just telling you the truth. I don't like to lie to people.
She's telling it like it is, man. Telling it like it is.
Right. I'm starting over.
It happens, okay? Like, we like to watch Project Runway, and you see on Project Runway, sometimes the person has to scrap their entire design.
You can't compare to that because those people working under very unrealistic circumstances where they have to get like 3 outfits done in
4 hours.
Yes, and they have to use like copper tubing and styrofoam to make a dress, and they only get to see the model once before the show.
Yeah, they're only allowed to sew it one eye open.
Yeah, that's no. I was not working under those conditions, so I would hope to have a better outcome.
Sometimes you have to scrap a design. It's just not working. And you can keep wrestling with it, but if it's just not working, it's just not working. Just move on to something else. Let's have a moment of silence.
You don't need a moment of silence, but much.
But I'm sure you'll figure something out. I'm actually just trying to get to the end of my row. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, she's not even here with me right now.
I'm totally here with you. I am totally here with you. I am totally here with you.
You know what? No knitting during the podcast.
All right, but I'm trying to just get there. So what are you sewing?
Oh no! Don't try.
Really?
Don't try to squirrel me. It's not gonna work.
So you're not gonna talk about your sewing?
What else are you working on? What happened to your socks?
I haven't been working on them because I've been working on. I finished my vest.
But why didn't you finish the socks before? Let's talk about this.
Oh no!
You refuse to work monogamously, and for me, like what you do seems entirely chaotic. And I'm just like, okay, so you finished the shawl,
right?
And you had the socks going while you were working on the shawl,
right?
Yeah, the socks going while you work on the vest that you did after the shawl.
Right.
Why at no point did you say, let me finish the socks before I start the next thing?
Because I got really excited about this top, and then I swatched it, and the swatch came out so nice.
But why'd you swatch when you got socks to finish?
I was excited about the vest, but about the cardigan, and I I just got distracted, and it was all I could think about.
A project hanging out like that for me, which I mean, it's like I have my silk dress that I put on hold to work on this, and the silk dress is ever present in my mind. I'm just like, I need to finish it. That feeling of unfinished, I'm very uncomfortable with it. But you just don't think about the other project.
No.
How is that?
It will come back to front of mind, but right now, all I want to work on is this. So I've been giving this all my knitting time. Now, let's say I get bored with this, because this, I'm going to tell you, if you like to watch TV while you knit, this is the one. Because right now, I needed to do 19 inches of stockinette, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I must say, I made it through like all of the second half of The Walking Dead. And I forget what else I was watching, but it was great. And I was able to keep up with exactly what was going on the TV, because I'm just knitting stockinette. But this is kind of dull knitting for me. And it's not going to be exciting knitting. So if you're looking for something that's just back and forth knitting, Zona cardigan might be the one for you. Because once you get it started, there's just nothing to it. And it'd be good for, like, if you go to a knitting or crochet group and you just want to have a project to work on, this is the one for you. But like, I thought about the socks this week, and I was like, oh,
she thought about them.
I did. They crossed my mind. I was like, I got to work on those socks and get those finished. Because actually, I picked out 3 other socks that I want to cast on.
Yeah, because I was going to say, you bought all this yarn specifically for making socks. You got like at least 7 pairs of socks on tap. Plus the vest for Rachel. Plus this Zona cardigan.
But hold up, wait a minute. But when I'm done with this, I promise myself I'll go back and finish those socks. Unless I get distracted. Unless there's a claim jumper. And there might be. But this is not going to take like a super amount of time. Because I'm working these on, I think, US 7s, 4.5 millimeters. And it's a DK weight yarn. And it's flowing actually pretty well. Because I started this right after Wool Walk. Matter of fact, I put it on my calendar exactly when I started, so I could look back and see what the exact date was. So I do have those socks hanging out, but it doesn't trouble me. I can go back to those socks whenever. And I think I might make a rule that I'll put like 1 round on the sock every day if I'm working on something else.
1 round? How about like 1 inch?
No, that would take more time.
Yes.
And I'm devoting the bulk of my knitting time to this.
And you would finish them.
But I'm not worried about it.
I know.
I know that's like, so let us talk about it. So you feel like the dress pressuring you?
I do. It's right here.
Oh God.
It's sitting. I walk past it every day, and I'm like, I know. I'm coming back. Yes.
Oh, okay.
You know what it's like? When the battery in your smoke detector is dying, and so it just keeps beeping. And sometimes, like, it's been beeping for so long that the sound will blend into the background. But then sometimes it's very, very present.
Oh,
that's what it's like for me.
No. And you know what? It really depends on where I'm at in my mind too. Now, my sock is a slightly more complicated project than this. And honestly, this type of knitting would typically bore me to tears. But right now, it's very soothing. Did you start another row? Yeah. Oh, was I not supposed to?
You said I was going to get to the end of the row.
Yeah, but then I got to it and it got good to me. But All right, all right, all right. But I will just knit quietly while we talk. Um, but I think for me, having something the type of knitting I need in the moment is more important than having a project, worked from beginning to end in a very linear
I don't
fashion.
even understand what you're saying right now.
Because sometimes my focus is not there, but I still want to get some knitting done.
But
So
for me,
I
like that unfinished project is all I can think about.
no. It's like for me, projects go in and out of focus. So sometimes I'm only like right now I'm really focused on this project. This is what I want to work on. I'm interested in how this fiber works. Um, and I think for me, I had to change the way I tension the yarn because this yarn is so inelastic.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm tensioning in a very soft, relaxed way. Now, if I switch back to wool right now, I'm going to go back to tensioning much tighter. And when I come back to this, my hands are going to hurt. Right now, I have no hand pain because, as you can see, how this yarn is flowing through my fingers. Even when I have my finger looped, I'm not tensioning very tightly at all because it doesn't need it. And it will just make my hands hurt. So I don't think switching between wool and this right now would do me any favors.
Right. So that's an argument for, steady as she goes.
Right. So I'm steadily as she going on this bad boy right here.
Except you didn't finish your sock.
Right. But that's not a problem. I can just go
Or the
finish a sock
vest.
some other time. No, I finished the vest. I'm wearing the vest.
I'm saying you hadn't finished the socks when you started the vest either.
Right, right, right.
I feel like you don't even understand what I'm
I
saying.
know. I don't understand what you're saying, and you don't understand what I'm saying. Because I'm looking at you like, what do you mean? It's like a smoke alarm. It's a quiet. It's a dress. It's sitting there quietly in a bag. So it really depends on how your brain works. And I say, do what works best for you. A very linear creative process is your process, and mine is more of a gestalt. Projects come into focus and they go out of focus.
I feel like we're just not getting each other at all.
But that's okay. You know what? It takes more than one way to walk the paths to get through the world. So, I have a teeny tiny confession to make.
She got more yarn.
You just put me on Front Street. Oh my God. But let me tell you what happened. What happened was this. There was a virtual event. I went to one extra store virtually that I had forgotten about. So, this yarn came from Rose of Pearl. Hello, thank you guys. And they did a virtual trunk show with I think this is Andromeda. Is the Andromeda sock yarn was the yarn company that made it. Look at that. One of my favorite combination is like blues and browns. This has like blues and like a deep red that to my eye kind of looks like a brown. And I kind of fell in love with it that night. So I had to go before the show was over. So I just left them a message that said, hey, please send me a skein of Andromeda sock yarn in the Western shirt category, in the Western shirt colorway, which I think this looks very much like a Western shirt. And they called me like a week later and we finished the transaction. And this just came in the mail. I think it was what? Yesterday or the day before? I think it came in the mail the day before yesterday. So it is 437 yards to 100 grams. It's a 75-25 super washable and nylon. And I just love it.
She snuck in an extra skein, y'all.
Yeah, just that one though. Just the one. Oh, and look, they sent it with a little stitch marker attached to the skein, which I think is just charming. Absolutely love that. So let me tell you what happened. So what happened was, I think this changed my plan for the shawl because I was going back and forth between this and that. But I think I'm going to play with these two together. And now that I'm looking at them, these might even work together, whatever it might be. But I think now I'm definitely doing the shawl this way. And these will probably end up as a pair of socks with my heels, cuffs, and toes in the light blue, popping off the deeper blues in this one. So it also resolved the problem.
Yarn often does.
It does.
Buying yarn resolves a lot of problems.
You know what? It won't solve world peace, but you know what?
You know what? It could.
It could.
If we could
That's what I'm thinking.
The non-stitcher stitching.
Mm-hmm.
I say we give it a shot.
I mean, the worst that happens is they get some really beautiful yarn. That's the worst that can happen. So do tell. What are you sewing?
I'm sewing a thing. So I finished my shorts, and I'll probably have a picture of an outfit with the shorts on my blog on Monday, because I always do Me Make Mondays. The shorts. Oh man, the shorts. I can wear them, but they have issues. The waistband was a whole thing. The crotch depth is too short. So people are trying to convince me that I should try to just alter that pattern, because as it stands right now, I can't use this pattern to make another pair of shorts because it's not going to fit. I cut out what mapped to the size 8 on the back of the pattern envelope, and the thing is, the hips fit really well. So if I were to go any bigger, the shorts would just be too wide.
Right.
So I know I cut out the size that I need, but there was just a problem with the design of the waistband on the shorts. But I finished them. And so I want to make this. It's a bra top. I'm making this version of it with the polka dots on it, because this one, like, it crosses over in the front, and I like that. But again,
oh no,
sizing is going to be an issue.
What is the name of the pattern?
The number is 1426. It's a simplicity pattern. They should give these names. I don't know why they don't. But here's part of the issue. If I believe the number is on the back of this pattern here, this would have me make a size that what maps to the size 16. And I don't know if these are considered like standard, like dress sizes, because these numbers seem crazy to me. I'm not a size 16. But this pattern that I bought only goes from size 4 to size 12.
Oh.
So I couldn't make the size 16 if I wanted to. So I just cut out the largest size, and I am making like a muslin first, which I hate. Look, I'm not going to make everything twice. That's just not going to happen. That's not what we're doing.
You don't have to make everything
That's
twice.
what you're doing. If you make a muslin for each garment you make, you're making thing twice.
You might need to make a muslin for each new pattern you make. But once you've established your baseline for a few basic patterns, you can use them to extrapolate into other things.
No. We're not doing that. Nobody has that kind of time. Okay? So I'm doing it for this just because I'm working from a thrifted garment. And once I cut. That's it. There's no more of this fabric coming. So I'm actually going to be making it out of this denim skirt. And I'm only going to be able to cut this out once.
Yeah.
Based on the amount of fabric I have. So I just need to know that the size I make is going to fit me. But Yeah. These things are not, I don't know, I don't know what they're thinking with these numbers here. I just don't get how Simplicity is doing their sizing at all.
Have you ever gone to their website to see what they have to say about sizing?
I have not.
Maybe you want to check that out.
But whatever they say, they can write anything they want on the website. What you get in this envelope is what you get in this envelope.
No, because
So
maybe they have some advice on how to pick sizing, in whatever system they're using. Because I know sometimes when I order clothes online, one of the things I do is, and this does not always help, but it can. I will go to the company's size chart and compare myself to the size chart, so I can at least get a
ordering
glimpse.
clothes online is a whole other thing, because you've had the same experience. You buy something in two different colors,
and they're totally
one
different
fits
sizes.
one way and one fits another way. So they can tell you whatever they like on their website.
I know, but at least
did you see for a while they were like doing this thing where you would go to order something online, and they would give you an option for getting help with choosing a size, and they would say, well, what size do you wear at this store? And it would be like a similar brand.
What? For
yes.
real? See, I never saw that.
I don't know if they're still doing that, because I haven't bought clothes. I haven't bought any clothes all year, which is, if y'all knew me, you'd be like, are you okay?
You feeling me?
So I don't know if they're still doing that, if that was just an experiment. But yeah, they would ask you, well, what size dress do you wear, what size top or pants or whatever do you wear at such and such a store? And they're like, well, then you want to get this size at our store.
Yeah, and I know all those things happen, because it's happened to me. I've had you buy something in two colors because you really like it, and you picked out your size, and color A fits, color B is too big. I've had the outer shell of the garment fit just fine, but the lining was cut a size or two smaller. So I totally get it, but it's the only clues you're gonna have about
like
why the sizing is so
I was
bizarre.
ordering things from the Gap, I would always have to size down my skirts.
Yeah.
But I could order my shirts true to size and pants. I could order, well, again, if it was a flowy top, I'd have to size down. If it was a fitted top, I would order my size. But anything where it was flowy or not even oversized, but just a loose fitting garment, I always had to size down. I don't know why this is so hard. And honestly, these kinds of issues with sizing was one of the things I was hoping to get away from when I started making my own clothes. But no, which is why I've written about it on the blog a couple of times now, that I'm going to try to learn pattern drafting. And so I guess starting with these shorts is, I have a post that should be up today about the fact that I'm going to try to alter the shorts pattern, because well, it'll be up today as of the day we're recording. When you see this, it will have been up for a few days. Yeah. Okay. Not your fries timeline. The shorts fit in the hip, and the total length of the shorts is fine. What I need to fix are the waist and the crotch depth. So because I'm not having to do a complete reworking of the pattern, just overhaul it in every aspect, I'm hoping if this will go okay. I need to fix these two things while keeping these other two things the same. I don't know if that makes this easier or harder. But if I want to use this pattern again, I have to make some changes to it.
Absolutely.
Thank goodness it was only $1, because these patterns are like...
So is that 2 out of 2 now that have just had a level of wonk to them?
Yeah, the skirt pattern was a mess. When I cut out the size that they suggested I should cut out, like I said, it was just too big. And so that contributed to that problem I had, but there was too much fabric around the hem. So this bad boy here, which I also got for $1, this is saying is $18. I'm really glad I didn't pay $18 for the shorts pattern.
I'm mad that you had a much more successful sew with a free pattern you downloaded
I sure did.
than a pattern from a well-established. I mean, Simplicity has been around what? I don't even know how long.
The size was completely accurate, and the instructions were really clear, and I liked how they did their waistband better. So I would totally get another pattern from Sew House 7. Simplicity, however, gets hard side eye. They do.
Rock hard side eye.
They do. So I haven't talked about the Lutter Low system on the podcast. There's this thing called Lutter Low that's supposed to be, it's basically kind of a happy medium between buying a pre-cut pattern and buying and drafting your own pattern from scratch. So basically they give you a shape for a garment. They give you the pattern pieces, but it's actually miniaturized. Oh. And they give you a system for sizing it up to your size. So you're going to be drawing your own pattern pieces, but they're giving you a way to make sure that those pattern pieces will be your size when you are done. And I would like to get that. It's a little pricey. I think it's like $150. So what I'm doing is this month, with one exception, I'm having a no spend month. So that next month I have enough to buy my Lutter Low system. My one exception is we're going to one of the barns that's participating in the barn crawl.
Oh, was it New Jersey Fiber Shed?
Yes.
Barn crawl.
And we have a friend who will be selling her yarn there. So of course I'm going to go and support and buy some of her yarn. I'm limiting myself to 2 skeins.
Oh, I spoke to Laura today. She's not going to be doing yarn. She's only going to be doing fiber.
I can't do anything with fiber. I don't spin.
But she told me an interesting, you should know what? You should call her and tell her, hey, if you have a particular color, something you like, just tell her bring you a couple of skeins and you'll cheerfully buy them off.
Yarn under the table.
But it's going to be kind of interesting because the Fiber Shed is having a very strict policy that everything that's sold needs to be produced 100% in New Jersey. So if you do find yarn there, it's going to have come from an animal from New Jersey, spun and dyed here.
Interesting. Well, so I might not even have my one exception. So I'm saving for my Lutter Low system. And I'm hoping that what it will do is just give me a little bit more freedom to make adjustments instead of being, stuck with whatever pattern piece. I can't believe I'm having this much trouble with sizing from making my own clothes.
I had no idea. But you know what? I got to tell you, even when I was sewing, I left but Simplicity and Butterick behind because I wasn't happy with their patterns. And I had more selection from Vogue. And that's why.
I think Joanne does sell a few Vogue patterns, but they don't seem to have the same selection of Vogue patterns as they do all the other brands.
Yeah.
So what I'm hoping I'll be able to do with Lutter Low is, make those patterns and then tweak them a little if I need to.
Right.
But when I'm done, I'll have created a pattern piece that is the size that I need.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping it'll be kind of like a
sloper.
Yeah, but like an easier way to draft patterns than starting from, like I just watched a video yesterday where a woman was trying to draft a bodice sloper from a textbook with, with instructions from a particular textbook. And she had a lot of trouble. She ended up drafting like 3 different versions. And then when she made the muslin, there were fit issues in various places. I'm hoping to avoid some of that.
Okay, because I was going to tell you, you're going to eliminate some of that, but it's the transition from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions that causes the problem. And the only way that tailors have figured out and seamstresses have figured out how to true those things out is to make that muslin so that you can adjust for being three-dimensional because patterns are flat.
But I'm not making everything twice.
You don't have to make everything twice. You're gonna have to make a couple of things twice, though.
I'm just not.
I get it. I
not
totally
gonna
get it.
happen.
You're not making everything twice, but
I don't even know like where I'm supposed to get that much muslin in my budget because y'all know I don't be spending like that.
that's what sheets are for at the thrift store. Because I'm going to tell you something, and you're going to give me a bit of hard side eye. I want to kind of create my own perfect summer tea. And I also am thinking about getting some a very inexpensive oversized t-shirt or two to represent it and fit it to myself and then knit to that as the pattern.
Store we went to, what is it, Secondary Thrift? They had whole racks of t-shirts. Child,
yeah.
If you want a t-shirt, we can get you some t-shirts.
Because it's a knit fabric and I'll be able to kind of manipulate it. So I'll be making a muslin for a knitted garment. Okay. So I can fit it first.
Yeah, I saw another YouTube video. I've been watching people sewing on YouTube a little bit. And I saw someone who made a muslin for a hand knit garment. And that was really interesting to me. Mm-hmm. It never occurred to you know how I feel about pre-crafting.
I know.
And it never occurred to me.
Both my sisters make fun of me for pre-crafting.
That's when you make the thing you need to make in order to make the thing. The pre-crafting.
That's what they called it when I started to spin. Like, good God, yarn comes already made.
Like, why don't you just buy a sheep at this rate? But literally never occurred to me to sew in order to crochet something. And I don't know if I'll be doing that. But what I do sometimes, like the tack sweater that I made, I did take something from my closet that fit the way I wanted it to. Mm-hmm. That was already made though. I didn't sew that first.
Well, I don't intend to sew a t-shirt, but what I do intend to do is use it as a fitting tool.
Yeah.
So that I can explore maybe.
But you don't have a t-shirt that fits the way you like already?
No.
So that I will do. I will take something from my closet that fits the way, especially when I'm trying to determine ease.
Yeah.
Something from my closet helps because I have things that fit all different kinds of ways, close and loose or whatever. And I do that. But I would never have thought to make my own like sloper in order to crochet. I won't be doing that. I just won't.
Well, that's how I'm going to give myself the a good fit. Mm-hmm. And then I can measure from that and then calculate my gauge from my swatch. Mm-hmm. And then I should be able to cast on. I already determined my neckline. I like a boat neck. So I'm going to make it boat neck.
Sewing. I feel like, look, I don't see a lot of people, and I guess a lot of the people that I've seen on YouTube have been sewing longer than I have. Mm-hmm. So they do make it look like, bippity boppity boo. And I'm having all kinds of problems. And I'm just like, wait a minute. Is it just me?
No. That's something I saw someone talking about on Twitter this week too, that we should normalize showing unfinished projects and the interim stages of projects, because there's a whole series of videos on both Instagram and TikTok where someone will hold up a skein of yarn and then boom, they'll do a transition and now there's a finished object. And at least psychologically, it gives people the impression that these things happen so quickly, and they do not. Okay, making the smallest thing takes time.
We gotta show the ugly more, y'all. We gotta show the morning face. When you first wake up and your eyes all crusted and.
See, when I said I was going to do that, she was like, no!
I mean, literally. I'm talking, it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. But, you take a minute to just get yourself ready for your day. And it takes a minute to like make your thing be what you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we don't get to see the innards enough. And
Yeah.
we need to see the mechanism. We need to see the gears grinding.
Yeah.
And because for one thing, it can make you feel shut out. Because if you think to yourself, it's not just like, oh, I don't think I can make a sweater. It's that, well, it's so easy for that person and it's not easy for me. I must be doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that can discourage you. But it's not easy for that person either. They just don't talk about it.
Exactly. You know what? I one of the first podcasts I listen to regularly, and I still listen to, is the Knit More Girls, and they have had a segment for a decade now called When Knitting Attacks, and they talk about what went wrong in their current project and what they did to fix it. And I think we should all be talking about that, because not only does it normalize the process of making, it shares valuable information with people, because you're not the only person that's going to run into that problem, make that mistake, or anything else. And it just creates a conversation that we can have with each other and really make everybody a better crafter.
I really think that we are the internet has made this worse. This has always been the case,
Mm-hmm.
but the internet has made it worse just because so many more people are so visible now.
Yeah.
That we have made the idea of success never having failed, when it's really persevering despite failure. It's about failing over and over and over again. There was an episode of Friends. Monica was dating this guy who was like a tech billionaire, and he had created some sort of software system. And he told Monica, he was telling a story of like, you know, how he got in the business. And he was just like, well, the first version didn't work, and the second version did that, and the third version burned down my father's garage. And we don't, once the smoke is cleared, we don't talk about that part anymore when we burn down the garage.
Yeah.
But we need to really be honest, because the fact is every person who is successful has failed multiple times.
Sure has.
And once the person is visible to others as a success, they simply become defined as always successful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not reality.
Here's a pet peeve of mine. When people talk about Aunt so-and-so with the knack.
See, now, she and I
or
differ.
The talent.
There is such a thing as talent, though, Lisa. Talent needs to be nurtured.
There is.
It needs to be developed, but there is such a thing as talent.
You can have a talent for music and never have music lessons. That's not going to make you a brilliant musician. You can have a talent for picking colors, but that's not going to make you a brilliant knitter or crocheter. The only thing that makes you a brilliant knitter or crocheter or whatever craft you're doing is practice. You keep on doing it until it gets better. You make a bunch of ugly things in the beginning. I used to specialize in making ugly hats. One hat was uglier than the next. They were hideous. See, you forgot about my ugly hats.
Because we used to crack on her all the time about them hats.
They didn't fit.
I forgot.
They were either too big or too small.
This is like the really early days of her knitting, as you know,
and my crochet.
Yeah. Whew, I forgot. Oh, there was a whole series of them hats.
Okay. Okay, see, it all came back. It all came rushing back. But yes, I used to be the maker of hideous hats. But if I hadn't made all those hideous hats, I wouldn't have eventually started making good ones.
But here's where I think the knack or talent comes in.
Okay.
So 2 people start out, say, making hats, right? And one person makes 20 hats that are ugly before they make one that looks good. The other person makes 4 hats that are ugly, and then hat number 5 looks good.
Right.
The person who only made the 4 hats has a greater talent for this. They learned how to adapt faster.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean that each person can't get there eventually, But if you have an inclination towards a certain thing, it takes you less time to get further compared to other people.
Okay, I will give you that point. But they still needed to practice. And when they both
Yes.
started, they were both making ugly hats.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, it's so funny because as a very beginner, I can't even make some of the mistakes that a very beginner can make. I mean, I've seen people somehow turn around in the middle of a row and go back the other way and then come back.
I feel like that's something I would do because knitting confuses me.
But I don't know how they would do it. I mean, I had to learn like several special procedures to be able to stop in a row and go back. So once you have developed the skill and the technique and the muscle memory, there are certain things you can't do. You know, you just can't do it. But once you have let go of the idea of the knack, then all roads are open to you because now you know it's just going to be a slog. Yes, your hat's going to be ugly. Yes, it is.
And then there's that person who makes the one ugly hat, and then from there on out, it seems just like they just only make beautiful things, and you want to hit them.
But you know why that is? Because out of sight, unseen, they went away and practiced. Or
I'm saying some people, if you have a large amount of talent.
I don't know. I don't even think that is available for physical things.
It's rare.
For physical things, no, I don't think so, because you have to learn a technique. You have to learn how to work the tools. You can
like some people.
You can show promise from the beginning.
Yeah, some people are more athletically inclined than others.
Yes, you can show promise from the beginning, but you still got to put the practice in. It's all about putting in the time.
Yes, everyone has to put in the time. I'm just saying, some things take some people a lot less time. It just does.
But here's the other thing. People bury the failures, like doctors bury those patients, but also they hide the work.
And that's what we see a lot, like on Instagram and I'm sure TikTok, that you just don't see what all went into it.
What all went into that cake to make it so fluffy?
You don't see the other versions hidden in the closet.
Look how many variations you've done so far. Now, this is just the large pieces of this work you've done. You did swatches from every single one of those yarns too.
That's how I knew I didn't want to use double crochet, because I don't like double crochet. There, I've said it. Ooh. It can work nicely. Like this shawl is mostly double crochet stitches, but I did it at a very fine gauge and beautiful yarn, so it worked out a little bit better. But yeah, it is hard to fail without feeling like a failure.
Right.
And I don't like that.
Who does?
Like, there's no point.
It's like, oh, look, there's that failure gravy. Let me dip my biscuit in there.
Yeah. But I feel like we all need to talk about these things more.
Yeah.
And nobody does.
That's why when I write my finished object posts, I will always tell you, and as I'm going along, as things go wrong, I will tell you guys, hey, such and such a thing went wrong. And here's what I did to fix it, or I'm still working out how to fix it. Like on my vest, the designer wanted me to do a kind of sewn bind off, and I couldn't do it. I was following the steps, but because I hadn't done it before and I hadn't practiced it, it looked horrible. It looked like a series of knots along the edge of my vest. So I had to like make some decisions about how I was going to finish off that one bind off row. And I think I discovered something in that process that I'm going to be using on other garments, you know, shifting to a series of ever smaller needles to create a very, very neat edge that I would not have found out about had I not had that problem. Now, I will practice that bind off because it's a useful bind off, but I will practice it on a swatch and perfect it a bit before I put it on the edge of my garment where it's going to show around the sleeves and around my neck. Because it was fugly. It was. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just gotta admit it. This thing is fugly. Oh, and yes, I wore my ugly hats. It was cold. I lived in New York.
I mean, there were a lot of them. Some were too big, some were too small.
They perch right here. Or sitting like down here. I just push them up and fluff my hair up into it. But you have to make your ugly hats. I think that's just in any type of skill. You have to make your ugly hats. Bake your funky cakes. Mess up a stew or two. Yeah. I make very good stew now, though.
Yes, this is true.
But that's the process it takes to get better at a thing. So just because you're bad at a thing when you get started, it's like Crystal hates when she says, oh, she'll try something brand new, and not be great at it. And I'm like, but yeah, that's supposed to be ugly. How could it be good? Because you just got started. She gets so mad when I say that. But I'm like,
no,
you're at the
get
beginning.
Mad when you say, well, you suck.
Yeah, it sucks. And it's okay.
I don't understand why it's hard for you to understand why you can't tell people they suck. How, like, it's discouraging. Sorry. Suck doesn't seem like a state that can be changed. So if you suck, well, then don't bother because you suck.
It's like sometimes I would finish a hat and I'd go, wow, there's an ugly hat. And I'd put it on and wear it. Because they were ugly.
There's still not someone else telling you that you suck.
Okay.
Do you see the difference?
Okay, sorry. You don't suck. That thing you made did.
Or no one wants to hear that either.
Okay, anyway.
How about not use that word?
All right, it's not good. But it's okay.
She says, I hate when she says it, and she doesn't seem to understand why.
Okay. I get it now. I do.
So.
Anyway, do you have anything else for the people today?
Nope.
All right, people. Thank you for spending this time with us. Oh, I am teaching a class at Vogue Knitting this weekend. Oh, actually, you know what? By the time you guys see this, it will have happened. But I'm teaching again in August. So come join me then. And join our newsletter if you would like to find out more about the shenanigans that will be going on. You can visit knitsheep.com and subscribe. Oh, and P.S. We still have a giveaway going on. Next time, I will show you what's in the giveaway bag. And when we hit 300 subscribers, we're giving away the bag and everything. So have a good week, everybody. Bye-bye.